Hello and welcome to the Contra Account, a bookkeeping podcast. Coming to you from the Southern Highlands of New South Wales, we are two bookkeepers, Darren McMahon from Dardee and Dave Gertler from The Bookkeeping Habit. That's me, Dave. This podcast gives you two very different perspectives on the wonderful, ancient, timeless profession of bookkeeping. We are two bookkeepers with very different backgrounds, albeit a lot in common, but at very different stages of our career journey.
Hi everyone, I'm Darren. We're going to be reflecting on our journeys as well as bringing you up to date with the latest news, events and trends in the bookkeeping space. So whether you're a seasoned pro or just getting into the industry, we're here to make other bookkeepers or anyone who's interested in bookkeeping, we're going to help them feel supported and not alone and in whatever journey you're on so far.
Cool. So although there's always current events to talk about, for this first episode of the Contra Account, we figure that it's important for you to get to know us a little bit as your host. So Darren, why don't we do that? Tell me a little bit about yourself and then we can drill down on some of those details. And then I can tell you a little bit about myself and we can dive a bit deeper there as well.
Okay, but before we do that, why don't we have a quick chat about why we called this podcast the Contra Account? So what is a Contra Account? Well, according to the ICB, a contra account is a general ledger account with a balance that is opposite of the normal balance for that account classification. The use of a contra account allows a company to report the original amount and also report a reduction so that the net amount will also be reported. However, accounts named contra are often used as an all-purpose clearing account.
So that's right. You know, there are a few things in that, I think when we landed upon the name, the Contra Account, I think we both felt that for a podcast, it sort of resonated with both of us for a few different reasons. Obviously, as a bookkeeper or as an accountant, there's something nuanced about what a Contra Account is and how it appears on the balance sheet of a company. And its usefulness, I guess. I guess it's part of the nature of bookkeeping and accounting to sort of tell the full story. Is there anything else that you want to?
Well, I mean, I think that was also a part of, just following on from that. It was a case of the two of us have come from different backgrounds. We've had different journeys and we're going to probably have contra opinions on things. So, I
don't know about that, Darren. I'm going to have to.
Oh, of course we will. Come on. But yeah, look, we just felt that it fitted the nature of who we are and what we're about and what we want to talk about. We're probably going to have contradictory views to what, may be the norm. We're not going to go out there and on purpose be sensational or have sensational views, but from time to time, probably going to stir the pot. That's not a bad thing.
Well, that's how the stew is made, And I guess also, the Contra Account is sort of like the other side, I guess. So there's a few podcasts out there on in the bookkeeping space, in the accounting space. And, we're just here to add not a contradictory voice, but just a contrasting voice.
Yeah, I think that's very prudent, a contrasting voice. The two of us are contrasting, so we'll see how it goes.
We're back from a quick break. We just had a little chat about why we chose the name, the Contra Account, and we were going to start telling everyone a little bit about our history. So Darren,
Oh, you want me to go first?
I definitely want you to go first.
Okay.
You've got a lot more to say, I think,
Okay.
without giving too much away.
Pressure's on
So,
already.
so how long have you been a bookkeeper for, and where were you in your life when you started bookkeeping?
Okay, so look, I'm actually an accountant, and I'm a CPA, but I started my current business. So I started Dardy a bit over 10 years ago. So it was the beginning of 2010. And at that point in time, I just come from I come from a commercial sort of situation for the previous 6 years, and I was looking for something different. I'm very easily distracted. I get bored with things very quickly, and I was looking for something to keep me interested. What I was ideally looking for was a few part-time jobs, like say bookkeeping or some sort of small internal role with a company for 2 days a week, and then another one for 2 days a week, and potentially another one for another day, or a 2 and 3 day week role, and that sort of thing. Problem was, when you're qualified with a degree and you're a CPA, no one wants to give you a position 2 days a week, because I just got told that I was overqualified and that I would leave in no time. And didn't matter what I said to them, didn't matter how much I said, look, this is what I want to be doing, this is why I'm applying for these roles. No one would give me a break. And I was actually getting quite disenchanted with the whole thing, and I thought, well, what do I do? Like, I don't want to go back to public practice, which I'd done for the first, God knows how long of my career, 14 years, 15 years. So I then thought, well, can I just make a go at this by myself? So rather than getting a couple of 2 day a week roles, can I get my own clients and effectively do the same thing? And I was lucky enough that a friend of mine, he had an accounting practice, and he gave me a few clients that he needed. He had clients that needed some work done on them, some bookkeeping type work. So I got a few clients from there. I managed to sign up with, now I can't even remember the name of what it was called then. Oh, Quotify. It was called Quotify at that point in time. I don't know what it's called now, maybe One Flare or something. I don't even know what it's called now. But I happened to sign up with them at that point in time, and it was really quite new, and I got a lot of work out of that. And that got me going really quickly.
What was that called? Quotify?
Yeah, Quotify at that point in time. Now, I don't know what it's called now. I guess maybe you can look that up while I'm talking.
What was it?
Well, what it was it was one of those lead sort of companies where you sign up and they get people to sign up to their platform, and the people on the other end, so the people who are looking for work to be done, they pay. Well, actually, no, they get it for free, and then we pay if we get a lead. So people go on their site, say, I need a bookkeeper, or I need some help with Xero or MYOB or whatever it might have been.
Yep.
And I would, they choose, I think it was 3 different organisations that they gave each lead to, and they would be matched up based on criteria. I don't know how it works, or how true that matching criteria is. I don't know, because I remember that there were some leads that I was never going to get because they were just not what I was looking for as a person providing the service. But yeah, so I got a lot of work from that. And
when was this? Like, roughly what year was this?
So this was 2010.
Okay.
So this was 2010. And this was at the same time when Xero started to really sort of become into the Australian market. Like I think they actually came in towards the end of 2009,
Yep.
but the beginning of 2010. And then, so when I was starting this new business idea, I'd come from a situation where I was using Terminal Services MYOB. Now, anyone who's used
What do you mean by terminal services? What's that?
Okay, so that's like a
It
I don't
sounds
even know.
pretty dire, actually, when you say it back. Terminal services. I hope that's something I never need to use.
Well, I don't even know whether it exists anymore because the whole world's moved on and there's so much more technology. But effectively, what it allowed you to do was use MYOB, and it was MYOB Premier, but a specific version that allowed you to use it on multiple sites, all connected together. But they had to effectively work, I think it was via a VPN. So what it meant was that MYOB was really, really slow. And the company that I had been using it with was quite large. They had quite a decent volume of transactions. So I found it was like poking my eyes out with a pitchfork. Like it really was something that I hated it. And look, I know there's plenty of people who love MYOB and all, and they've done great things in the past.
Well, that was a long time ago.
Well, that's right. I mean, we're talking 10, almost 11 years ago. And I said to myself, I cannot use this platform anymore. There has to be a better way to be able to work remotely and be able to, have people log on to the same system at the same time from different places. And so I was looking around. There was Xero. There was,
Xero was always cloud-based, wasn't it? From the start. Like
that's right. It's a purely cloud-based platform. Yeah. And there were a couple of other options that I looked at, but I mean, Xero came in clearly the head of the pack, and it was from that time forward that I devoted everything I did pretty much to working on Xero, to working in the cloud, and that's how I've worked for the entire time that I've been in business. And it was it's a stark contrast to what I had done in the past when I was working in accounting firms, when I was working in commerce, where everything was on servers and there was so much manual data manipulation, and it was it was painful. And I really didn't enjoy that side of it. And I guess I didn't really know at that point in time that, things hadn't got to the point where they are at that, even in 2010, in terms of, being able to work remotely and being able to work online. And when I found Xero, it was like a light went off, and it was like, I think I've found my thing. And
that's cool.
That's what I've been doing ever since. So
that's cool. So it sounds like you went from public practice as an accountant.
Yeah. So I went from public practice to commerce.
Right.
And then into the bookkeeping sphere.
So you had that period when you were sort of trying to divide your time up a bit and, have part-time jobs.
That totally didn't work for me.
Which was difficult. But so at what point did you go from I'm an accountant to I'm a bookkeeper sort of thing? I know that you're still an accountant, but your services are marketed as bookkeeping, and bookkeeping is a big part. Correct me if I'm wrong, is more your identity than being an accountant. So Was it at that point when your like the cloud technology that was available kind of coalesced with where you were at in your career, so that it offered you a solution to your problems that you could then offer to your clients?
Yeah, look, I think that at that point in time, I knew that what I had done in the past wasn't what I wanted to be doing. And I think that it was just, one of those things where I was in the right place at the right time, and I decided that I needed something different, and Xero came along, and Xero and my paths just happened to collide at the right time. It was a chance, cliche, I guess, a chance meeting. And I had always felt that I didn't really fit into the public practice sort of side of things, and even in commerce can be a bit boring some days. And as I say, I need change. I need to break it up. I need a bit of variety. And look, just
what was it about the public practice side of things that you felt that you didn't really fit in with or want to fit in with?
Look, that's a really good question. I don't know that there's a particular thing, but I think it was a case of, back then everything was reactive. So you'd get a client's checkbooks, you'd get a client's bank statements, and you'd process things, and then you'd try and sort out issues and try to figure out what happened in a client's accounts 12, sometimes 18 months behind when the transaction actually occurred. So being on Xero and being on a platform like that, obviously you've got the timeliness of information in most cases. I mean, you still get that catch-up work from time to time, but it's just a different way of working. And I guess, I don't know. Look, I can't really put my finger on it. It was just, it just didn't feel right. It just wasn't me. And there was a lot of tax knowledge and things that I felt that I didn't know. And I mean, you've got to remember, I'd come straight out of school.
Yeah.
And there are people who are made for tax. Totally get it. People are absolute guns at it.
Yeah.
Not me. I'm not that person. I'm more into problem solving and looking at systems and understanding systems and understanding how people can automate stuff better. That's where I've really found my place in the industry. And I hate to be contradictory already, but I don't call myself a bookkeeper. I say that one of the services that we offer, our business offers, is bookkeeping. But I don't like, and this will probably be the first controversial point that we'll talk about, I don't like the fact that we call ourselves the bookkeeping industry, because there's so many people doing so many awesome things that are not just bookkeeping, and I feel that it devalues what we do in a lot of ways. Yes, bookkeeping is absolutely essential to most of our businesses, but I feel that defining ourselves as a bookkeeper is sort of not doing ourselves justice. And so, I mean, the title on my cards that I still have cards. No one ever takes them, but I call myself a cloud accounting junkie. That's what I call myself.
Yeah, right.
Some people look at that and like, well, okay, what does that mean? But I find it, at least it's a discussion point then. And, like, I'm not devaluing bookkeeping. I'm not trying to say that people who call themselves a bookkeeper, are any less than me, because they're not. But I'm just talking the industry as a whole. I think that there's better terms.
Well, I think
And
also, your exposure to the industry of accounting as an accountant, that's really interesting to hear that from you, because I don't think it's a secret that there's not a stigma, but there's a tone of some accountants that sort of look down upon bookkeeping and bookkeepers, and it's something that is it's the reason that organizations like the ICB and other professional associations are so important, and the statements that you're making about perhaps the word bookkeeper and bookkeeping needs to be taken from a different angle for moving forward.
yeah, look, also, as well as, some accountants have a not great view of bookkeepers, but there's a lot of bookkeepers that have a very underwhelming opinion of accountants as well. Look, it works both ways.
Yeah.
I don't think that any one treats the other any worse in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a lot of work that everyone can do in the whole accounting industry to provide services to the clients that suit the client the best, rather than, what we see as suiting ourselves the best. By the same token, there's a whole discussion, and we'll probably talk about that in a future episode, but there's a whole discussion around, do you focus on one accounting platform, or do you be, across all of them? That's a whole new discussion by itself. Does that make one any better than the other? I don't know. We can discuss that. I'd be interested in what other people think about that. But I don't know. Where do you sit on that sort of thing?
In terms of what accounting platform or what software?
Yeah, like just as a very quick nut out now. I'm very much a Pro Zero person and only Zero.
Okay, well, I'll take that as a first point of my contribution.
Yeah.
I very much like MYOB, and an accounting firm that I worked at for some time this year, mainly used MYOB Account Right. And it was the first time I was forced to sit there and do a lot of processing on any type of software, because I am new, relatively new.
And we'll get to your story in a minute.
Oh yeah, no, there's absolutely no rush. But
oh, come on.
But no, I went through a process with it, and I started it started to really click with me. I like the fact that it's a standalone app on the computer. Obviously it's connected to the cloud now more than it was before, but I still like Account Right that you can open up like you open up a Microsoft Office app like Excel or Word or Outlook or PowerPoint. I like the way that it responds to the data entry, and that's kind of where I'm closer to where I am at in my career. I guess on what you were saying before, the idea of the word bookkeeper and whether that's the right name for it and all that. I guess I'll disagree with you a little bit on that as well. I do like the word bookkeeper, and it is something that I am trying to embrace a lot, especially because I think because of those sort of stigma and apologetic tones around the relationship between bookkeepers and accountants, and also the relationship between bookkeepers and other people in the finance space or in the professional services. I've called my business the Bookkeeping Habit, and I'm trying to inhabit that idea of being a bookkeeper. So yeah, there's two things we've already disagreed on. How's that? I'm MYOB Bookkeeper, and you're Xero Cloud Accounting Junkie.
Yes, there. Well, there you go. See?
The
Didn't take
Contra
long.
Account. You know what I don't like about Xero? I don't like, one thing I don't like about it is that it makes it hard for you to journal transactions between bank accounts. You can't.
Yeah, see that's just a case of I can totally understand why they don't do that, and again, I quite like it like that.
Yeah.
I can totally understand, but yeah, look,
I
that's sort of horses for courses, I guess.
Yeah, true. I guess when I was using AccountWrite a lot at this firm, I got into the habit of fixing all of my problems by creating journal entries. And
We'll have to get you out of that habit. So
yeah.
there's one of your habits for you that you need to get rid of.
All right. So we talked a little bit about some of the things that you do, the way that you feel about bookkeeping. You like the ideas of automation. You talked about how you didn't like how accounting used to be very reactive, and how does your status as a cloud accounting junkie sort of play into the services you provide your clients, and can you sort of give a brief outline of some of the people that you work with or some of the businesses you work with and that sort of thing?
Okay, well, look, I'm as I said before, I'm into all things automation. I love automation. I like working with systems. I would much prefer to do that than do any bookwork at all. If I can manage to delegate all the actual bookkeeping work as such to somebody else, I would be a very happy person. But of course, I can't do that. So I still need to do some bookkeeping work. And as much as it's a great thing to be all about automation and implement systems and all that, I still feel like a core of any business in the bookkeeping space or in the accounting space, you've still got to deal with the day-to-day transactions, and you've got to be able to help people, even if they do their own books. So with a lot of our clients, they do their own bookkeeping work. So they've got people internally who will process their transactions. We still, as their support network and as their BAS lodger in a lot of cases, we still have to understand those entries, and we still have to know what they're doing in their businesses and how they work and how, Xero works. We have to be on top of all of that. So bookkeeping is still an essential part, even though we may not physically process all of their transactions. So, again, it's probably another discussion for another day, for another episode, where we can look at the types of different businesses within the bookkeeping industry. I mean, you've got people who are doing everything for their clients, and I mean everything, including paying their bills. And then you've got people who are just support and do BAS lodgements. And then you've got people who are just purely into automation and system integrations and people doing training. There's various types of businesses within the bookkeeping regime. But for us, we don't do a lot of the bookkeeping, but we still have bookkeeping clients who we do a lot of the work for. And that's the core. For a lot of people, that's their main income earner. That's where they get most of their income from.
Yeah.
You may have a couple of very large clients where you get a lot of income from, or you may have a lot of smaller clients. Whether you're one or the other, you're still doing bookkeeping for those clients. And there's a lot of different services and there's a lot of different ways people go about working with their clients. For us, I'm all about how can we minimize our amount of work?
Mm.
How can we minimize our amount of work? Excuse my phone there.
That's okay. Bit of background music.
How do we minimize our work and how do we minimize the client's work wherever possible? Because I don't want to be sitting there manually typing in a whole bundle of creditors' invoices, and I'm sure the clients don't want to do that either. So
Yeah.
wherever possible, if we can automate those, the input of those using products like HubDoc or Receipt Bank, and we use HubDoc these days, we're going to do it. We're going to do whatever we can to make life easier for everyone because I don't like giving people work that I don't like doing myself because I just feel bad.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be punching in that stuff. You know, as funny as it sounds, the last thing I want to be doing is bookkeeping.
Yeah. Well, I hear a lot of people who have been bookkeepers for a considerable amount of time speak in the same way. You know, it's definitely not something that's lost on me, but I definitely hear that and I go, that's interesting. As someone who's come to bookkeeping from recently from a lot of other things, adversely, I enjoy it. I enjoy the granular aspect of, bank reconciliations and matching things properly and, all of the stuff that you don't like to do is the stuff that I do like to do, which is funny. But it's interesting to hear you talk about all that automation and how you just want to make everyone's life easier, which makes perfect sense. But it's interesting playing into the idea that one of the things people talk about with bookkeeping is technology is kind of is making bookkeepers and accountants less important than we used to be.
That's a discussion for another day too. We've got episodes lined up already.
It obviously is,
that's a big topic and one that I'm really passionate about.
Well, I can tell because you're one of the people that embraces it. You're one of the people that says the technology is not only coming, it's here. And if you 100%. Want to remain relevant as a bookkeeper, as someone who helps with the financial administration of a business, then you'd better be up on this technology so you're better at using it than your clients, and so that you actually can add value to your clients who want to use that technology.
Absolutely. 100%.
In my short time in bookkeeping and accounting, I've noticed that there are so many people out there who just are nowhere near that point of being able to embrace the new technology.
Yeah, look,
they're stuck in the old world.
Just on that, I guess for someone like myself, and I don't want people to think that I've got a big head here or anything like that, but I think for someone like myself that has been embracing, the cloud and technology for the whole time that I've been in business for, almost 11 years now, I think sometimes I forget that everyone's not on the same page. And it's actually something that my wife says to me quite often. She says to me, you have to remember not everyone is like you. And I know that there's people who are way, way more advanced than what I am. But by the same token, I sometimes forget that there's a lot of people who are not anywhere near where I may be. And I guess my thing, I'm a big advocate for trying to advance the industry. And the one thing that I want to try and do as much as possible is bring people forward, advance where they are, advance their knowledge, whatever that may be, whether it be technically, whether it be with technology, whether it be confidence. And again, there's a big thing. That's another thing for me. A big thing I think that the industry lacks is confidence in general.
So on what you're saying, advancing the industry, that's the next thing that I was hoping to talk to you about and get a little bit of your story. You mentioned before, I mean, I met you at the Southern Highlands ICB network meeting. That's how I got to know you.
Yep. Correct.
And that is something that you coordinate and run as a long-time ICB and committed ICB member. ICB, for anyone who doesn't know, is the Institute of Certified Bookkeepers. I'm sure if you're listening to this, you and you're 38 minutes into the podcast, you're probably someone who knows that. But yeah, Darren, I know this about you, that's not the only thing you do. You do a lot of other things that are involved in progressing the industry, helping other bookkeepers. And before we, I guess, wrap it up for the first episode, which I think would be a nice way to end it, would be for you to talk about your other roles in bookkeeping.
Okay, so I'm involved in various things with the ATO, with the ICB.
What's the thing that you do with the ATO, or what's one of the
Okay,
things?
so with the ATO, I'm a part of BASAG, which is the Bass Agent Association group. So if anyone wants to look that up, that's BASAAG. If you look it up, it'll come up on the ATO website, and it'll give you some information and background on what BASAG is about. Now, that group is basically an industry group with the ATO, so the bookkeeping industry and the ATO getting together to discuss issues and interactions between the ATO and the bookkeeping industry itself. So there are members from the associations, from ICB, from ABA, and from AAT, and some of the accounting associations as well. And there's also members from the profession itself who are just in practice, people like myself. So I'm just there as a representative of the general bookkeeping population.
Yeah,
so
right.
I really enjoy that because it gives me a chance to speak on behalf of the industry as a BAS agent practitioner, and it gives, I think that's a wonderful forum for us to be able to speak, and the ATO are really great in listening to what we have to say. Now, as well as that, I'm also involved in various other focus groups with the ATO from time to time. One of those at the moment looking at mental health, which has obviously been spoken about an abundance over the COVID period. It's something that is very dear to my heart because my wife has various mental health issues with depression and anxiety and things like that. And so that is something I'm really passionate about. And that's also another reason why I started one of the things that ICB assisted me with was the Men in Bookkeeping group, which is just basically a bunch of guys, a bunch of men getting together on a Tuesday afternoon to just have a chat. Because the bookkeeping industry is an industry where it is very, very much dominated by women. Like, I think the stats are like 84% women and 16% males or thereabouts. And men can feel very isolated within the industry sometimes. And I had a bit of a moment a couple of months ago where I'm a fixer and everything needs to be fixed. And I had this day where I just felt like I couldn't fix anything, and it all got to me, and there was pressures coming from everywhere, and I had a bit of a meltdown, and I'm lucky that I've got a number of males within the industry who are in my very close group of friends, and I'm lucky that I could, speak to them and talk to them, as well as some other very close women in the industry. But I realise that I'm lucky. There's a lot of guys who are not like me and who have that close contact with a lot of other guys. And so I thought, well, I'm going to give guys that outlet. I'm going to give them that opportunity to be able to speak to other guys. And, so that's where I started.
How long have you been doing MIB?
Look, it's probably about 3 months now.
Okay.
And, and
is that something that's available to join from only ICB members?
No, it's for anyone.
Okay.
I mean, so we even have an accountant in there.
Okay. So maybe we'll put in the show notes. Should we put a link to how
we definitely can?
Okay, cool.
Absolutely. And then, I mean, that's one thing with the ICB. And then the other thing is I'm on their advisory board. And so I've just been appointed to that over the last couple of months. So again, it's a chance for me to have my say as a representative of the ICB members, and so I do like to have my say, which is probably a reason why you and I have started this podcast. Look, there's lots of things that I like to get involved in from time to time.
Well, Darren, I think that's a really good place to leave it, because for this first episode where we're just talking about your background, which we'll obviously go into more in future episodes.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to just be limited to one, but I think it's really cool that you've shared all that with our listeners. You started in what sounds like there was a definite before and after, from being in public practice as an accountant to being part of the wave of cloud accounting, and now being someone who's less focused on the tools, I guess, and more about the advocacy and moving the industry forward. So it's like it's quite a big story, and there's a lot more detail, I think, that we're going to talk about.
We absolutely will. And that is quite a contrast to yourself, which we will talk about next episode.
Yeah, I'm much new to the game. I think next episode will probably be much shorter. But we'll get to that then. So should we wrap it up for this first episode, Darren?
I think that's a good place to finish. And next time I can interrogate you.
Cool.
Because even though your story in the industry is much shorter, yours is a very interesting one nonetheless.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, if there's anything that I can take comfort on, it's that I have an interesting story.
That's playing it down.
No, so I actually got a job. The one that I told you about when we spoke, I actually got that job. So
awesome.
So perhaps I'll talk about that, because it's one of the things I can talk about as the after, as in before and after. It's the after. I've started a new job. By the next time we talk, I will have already started it. So
awesome.
Anyway, should we wrap it up, Darren? There's we're so glad that the listeners were able to join us for this first episode of the Contra Account, a bookkeeping podcast. We're looking forward to bringing you more episodes soon and bringing them to you as regularly as we can. If you want to reach out to the show, we'll put a link on the show notes to Darren's website, dard.com.au, and my website, thebkhabit.com.au. Darren, what are some of are there any other ways that people can find you on social media or anything that you want to share in that
Yeah,
sense?
look, I'm on Facebook most of the time. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter. I haven't been on Twitter for quite a while, but I know that you are probably going to talk about how you use Twitter a lot more than I do. And, if you
We'll
just
have
look
the
up
Twitter
Dardy,
versus Facebook. We'll have Twitter versus Facebook episode
yeah, that can be
coming
another
up.
one that we'll talk about. See, we've got plenty of topics.
Yeah. And we've also got a nice little idea for the naming convention for our episodes. Twitter versus Facebook. MYOB versus 0.
Oh, come on.
Liverpool versus Manchester. I don't know.
No, it's more the A-League for me. It's not the Premier League. But anyway, we're getting off track.
We'll get into that as well, I'm
Yeah.
sure. So anyway, we'll try and get this episode out to you, the listeners out there perhaps during Global Bookkeeping Week, which is coming up next week from the 16th of November. And if you're out there celebrating Global Bookkeeping Week, you enjoy that, and keep those Contra accounts under control.
Yeah.